Hey everybody, today I'm talking about Res Arcana, which is a 2 to 4 player card game, I suppose, designed by Tom Lehmann. This one came out a couple of years ago in 2019 and takes about 30 to 60 minutes to play. This was a relatively big hit of the year and has remained strong since. As you can see from the box design here, this one you are kind of taking the role of a mage and trying to be the best mage, I suppose, by controlling different artifacts in different locations. But the actual objective of the game is to get 10 victory points quicker than your opponents do. So it's got a bit of a race element to it. Now you've got quite a few different parts of the game here, as you can see from the layout. You've got these places of power, which look like this. These are different ways you can get points, which I'll go into a bit later. You've got these magical items, which are going to change in and out of your, I suppose, your tableau from round to round, and they can do lots of different things, such as getting you more resources or transmuting things into other things, etc. You've got monuments. These are ways that you cash in gold to get a boost of points and maybe boosts of resources. And of course, you've got your own personal deck of cards along with a mage. So at the beginning of every round, you're going to every game, you're going to be given 2 mages. You're going to pick the one you want to play for this game, and you're going to be using that one's power throughout the game. So I've just set it up here as if I've played a few cards already. So let's take a look at the actual anatomy of a card here. So of course you've got the title of the card here, you've got the resources that you need to be able to play the card onto the table in front of you to be able to use its actions in the first place. This symbol here basically means at the start of each turn you're going to get this influx of resources. So for example here, I'd get one of these blue resources, a green one, and my mage would also give me a blue one or a green one. And you've got 5 different types of resources here, which come in this really nice little tray to help you organise things. You're only going to actually start with a set of 8 cards in the game and start with a hand of 3. So it's not a game where you have a lot of cards and loads of things to use and things to choose from. It's all about using the cards you've got as efficiently and effectively as you can. So yeah, let's say I've played some of these cards out already. Obviously, I've got my mage here. So what I'm going to do on a turn is after taking my income of resources, I can choose to do a number of things, and they are such as using the artifacts I've already built. It could be to build a new card from my hand of cards. It could be to buy one of these places of power, which are really expensive. As you can see here, these are all the resources that you need, but they will give you bonuses and usually give you a way of converting resources into points. For example, this dragon's lair here will let me build dragon cards, because you've got dragon cards in your hand, if you're lucky at least, like this one here, depicted by this symbol. And this will let me do it at a discount. So from then on, I can build dragons a lot cheaper than I would without this layer. I can tap this location by turning it to its side and show that it's exhausted to gain 2 gold, and gold is a really powerful resource. And of course, I could do both. I could tap my card and tap a dragon card to put 2 gold onto this location, and then every gold on that location is going to be one of my 10 points that I need. So as you can see, there's quite a few different ways you can use the resources, and you've got to do them in kind of an order in order to get the most resources and get the best locations in order to convert them into points. So let's take a look at what some of the other cards do here. So this dragon egg, it only costs 1 gold to build, but if I destroy the card, I get to build another dragon a lot cheaper at -4 discount, and that's also going to count as a point. You've got this one here, which lets you discard 2 water in order to get a water and a green or a life essence. And whenever it shows this symbol, you've got to put that resource on the card, like so. And that means that you're not going to get these resources into your kind of supply until the next turn when you do a kind of a refresh phase. You've got other abilities like my mage here that lets me kind of ignore any ability that attacks me. You've got the dragons themselves, which attack other players and make them forced to discard life, and they're going to be worth points as well. You've got ones like this that let you tap and get rid of a certain resources to get other resources. So you're all just trying to build up this little engine to convert goods into each other's and to convert them into points. The ability of having these magical items is also useful as well, and they will kind of give you maybe something that you need that you don't have in your kind of immediate capabilities. For example, this one here lets me exhaust this item and get rid of 4 get rid of any 4 resources in order to get 2 gold, and then again you could use the gold to maybe do something like this and buy this golden statue, which would let me whenever I exhaust 3 gold, I get to convert that into 3 points, or at least just for that turn. Or this one here that just lets me have a big influx of resources and gives me a point. So there's lots of different ways, and it's basically building an efficient engine to get to those 10 points as quickly as you can. So there's so many combinations and things here that I can't really go into too much detail, but hopefully this will give you a bit of a gist about how the game works, because there's a lot of cards here, and they all do work with each other in different ways, and the kind of combinations are limitless really, and I could be here all day explaining what different things can do, but hopefully this will give you a gist. Once you've kind of finished your actions and everything's exhausted, you've got no more kind of options to take, you can pass, which will give you a bonus point for that kind of check of seeing who's reached the 10 points, and it will give you the first player option the next round, where you'll just refresh and draw a new card into your hand, and then you will basically swap your magic item for one in the middle, perhaps one that you want, maybe you want to gain income and stuff like that. And bearing in mind that you don't want to leave something really powerful that your opponents might want. So yeah, lots of things you can try here, pretty much just scratching the surface in this little overview, but yeah, there's certainly a lot of things going on. So let's talk about how I feel about the game. So I tend to really enjoy these engine building, tableau building style games, and this one certainly has that in a lot of that. It's basically what all the game is all about, and I love the way this game does so much with so little. Although it looks like there's a lot of pieces on the table, of course there is, but essentially you only have 8 cards in your hand, so it's not like you are making these big complex decks of cards like in something like Magic the Gathering. It does a lot with a very few components, and that's really impressive in my eyes. There's some very familiar mechanisms here which you would expect to find in kind of card games like this, such as tapping the cards and converting resources into another. But I love the way that this magical theme comes through in a Euro-esque style game, really. I mean, this isn't an overly confrontational game, which you'd probably expect with a game like this. I suppose the limit of the player interaction is kind of restricted to maybe attacking each other with dragons and potentially giving people resources by using certain actions, and maybe trying to stop people getting magical items at the right time, etc. And of course, racing to getting the places of power. So there's a little bit of player interaction here, but if you like these kind of dueling games, this one is very much a Euro slant on that genre of games, which is quite a bit different to anything out there. And I must admit that really did appeal to me. The balance of the game is a strange one. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of options here, and you've got to work with what you've got. Initially, the game does suggest that you start just by having a kind of preset of 3 cards and then drawing randomly the rest of them. You can purely play by having 8 random cards, but what I would suggest you do after a few games is that you actually do a formal draft for the cards, kind of have a hand of 4 cards, pass them on to the next player and select which ones you want. That way, I think you can maybe build a bit of an engine and work towards something in particular, because sometimes you'll have some cards like, for example, if I had this dragon egg here, although it's worth a point, if I didn't have any other dragon cards in my hand, then it wouldn't be as effective, which maybe could be perceived as being unfair. So I think a draft would really nullify that. And the book does recommend that you do so. So it isn't like an informal or house rule or anything. But if you want a quick start, you can happily just draw 8 random cards and just see and work with what you've got, which again, I'm not opposed to. So, if you want a real game where you can select which card you have and build your engine before you get started, or at least build a vision of what you're going to do, then feel free to do a draft, and that would make the game maybe even more involved. The time investment, I think, is really good in this one. It feels like you are doing a lot very quickly. That satisfaction of just converting resources into the others. There are some cards that you kind of untap your cards and use them again, and you can really just build a nice little conversion engine that gets a real forward motion and makes you feel like you're having big satisfying turns pretty quickly as the game gets started. The game does take, it says 30 to 60 minutes to play, and I think that's about right. I think in a 2-player game, that 30-minute mark is going to be pretty much spot on, to be honest. So I can't really complain. It doesn't outstay its welcome, and it does feel like it keeps you on your toes and keeps ticking along rather nicely. The replayability, I think the options in this game are fantastic. You're always going to be looking for new combinations, new different conversion trees, and different paths you can take. Working with what you've got, working with your mage and seeing what you can do. Trying to build an income of resources and work towards these places of power, as well as keeping the gold going and trying all these different these monuments. There's a lot of different things to try here. So in terms of replayability, I think it's really good. These places of power are also double-sided, so you can kind of have a random assortment of them out there. So loads and loads of options, loads of synergies, loads of things to try, and you'll always be discovering something new, which I think is fantastic. Aesthetically, I think the game looks wonderful. The artwork is fantastic. It has this real, dark or magical feel to it, as you'd probably expect. But I do really like the illustrations of this game. I think it has a real kind of realism to it. It has a real kind of sense of awe and magic about them, which I really do enjoy. The card anatomy is fantastic. The illustrations on the art are all really interesting and to just capture your attention, and I think that's great. Even the characters themselves all look really great, and there's quite a lot of these characters as well which you can do, which give you a slightly different kind of tactic or different strategy you can go down, and again they all look really interesting and offer even more replayability. Component quality, everything here is top notch really. The card quality is fine. The little resource tray here is fantastic. It holds all the bits, and you don't have to worry about them falling out in the box, because you get a nice little lid that sticks on there, and that goes directly into the box. These magical items are all really good, nice strong tiles. No complaints whatsoever. I mean, even the resources are all individual shapes, in addition to being different colours. So no complaints about the components or the artwork or visual design. I think it all is really good. I mean, I suppose sometimes you might be a little bit confused by the symbology, but there's actually quite a nice cap on how much different symbols there are, and it does a lot with as few symbols as it can. So I think it's been well streamlined, and the symbology has been kept to a minimum while still being a lot of potential for what you can do with those symbols. Theme, I think the theme is going to either push people in or draw people in or push them away. The magical theme, the kind of general, I suppose, fantasy style thing isn't for everybody. I think it's some people think it's a bit overdone, but I think this one does have a darker vibe to it, and it has it's certainly not generic. I mean, all these characters look extremely interesting, and I think, as I kind of mentioned at the beginning of the game, a more Euro-esque style game like this rarely uses that magical theme, and I think it's really well embedded in this one, converting the goods to the others. All the items have somewhat of a thematic tie as well, so the dragon egg lets you build a dragon for really cheap, or there's Catacombs of the Dead, which lets you convert death into points. So it all has a nice effort of being thematically linked, which I have to praise. Setup and teardown time is really quick, so it's just a bunch of cards, really. Deal them out. If you want to draft, you can draft, lay these out on the table, and you're pretty much good to go. So there's not much, there's certainly no obstacle in getting this one to the table. Nice and quick to get going. The sense of progression, I think, is fantastic. As I said, it's all about building an engine, building a tableau of cards that are going to work with each other. And once you get that machine going, it is very satisfying, and it feels like you've done a lot with a little. Scalability. I do think this game scales fine. I mean, I think I would hesitate to play it at more than 3 players. I think it works particularly well at 2, because it has more of a dueling style feel to it, and it feels like you are spending more time with your head in your game rather than waiting for other players to take their turn. But I can't really complain about it, and the fact that it even goes to 4 players I think is good. And comparison-wise, yes, there are a lot of engine builders out there, and a lot of really good ones, to be fair. But the fact this one's more card-driven, and the fact, as I said, it does so much with so little, with just 8 cards and a few additional things. I think this one does differentiate itself quite well. And the theme itself, I think the theme is just different, and it draws you into this world where a lot of the other engine builders may be more generic, maybe a bit more the kind of average beige Euro. But yeah, I certainly don't think there's anything directly like this. But it does have some familiarities, and it does have the strengths of a lot of the really good engine builders out there. So yeah, overall, I am very happy with Res Arcana. This is kind of the game that I always wanted, like, Magic the Gathering to be. I did have a bit of a dabble with Magic, but the more and more I've got into tabletop gaming in general, I become more and more leaning towards the Euro style of things. And this one is basically a Euro version of Magic the Gathering, which I absolutely adore. I think it's fantastic. I love just exploring the new synergies and new things you can do, how cards are going to work together, which order you're going to activate them in to get the most out of your turn, how you're going to quickly get that points engine going. Because once you've got that system rolling and got it smoothed out and you're starting to generate points, then that's when things really do ramp up and the tension comes in and it starts to feel really fun. So yeah, I can certainly see why this game took off really, took off well. I'm a bit sad I didn't get this one to the table sooner. I think I was put off by maybe the aesthetic, not put off, but deterred, thinking that this would be a lot more confrontational than what it was, and maybe be a bit more generic than what it was. But the gameplay is so strong, and I think Tom Lehmann does a great job of just making cards synergize together and work together in interesting, wonderful and satisfying ways. So yeah, really looking forward to playing more of this one, exploring more options, and just I think it's a lovely little game. That is Res Arcana. This one gets my shield of quality. I'm looking forward to playing this one more and more. So if you have enjoyed this review, please hit like and subscribe to my channel, and check out my other videos too. For everyone else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye.